for you today?
Go ask the coaching staff. They had a whole spiel in here, so go ask the coaching staff. Should I play more or not? According to them, probably don't play me, honestly. That's what basically the message was after, so.
It's just so early in the season. I think Ja had a very good relationship with Taylor Jenkins.
Yes, sir.
Taylor Jenkins was fired. I don't know if this guy was on the staff or he was brought in outside. I don't really know. He's a phenomenal player. He's an all-star. He's an all-NBA selection. And for him to only play 31 minutes, they had a 15-point lead. And the next thing you know, they were Luka and AR had wiped that out.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. Maybe he's had his run of Memphis.
You think so?
Sometimes, we need different partners.
Yeah, listen, I said that last year.
I know he's frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can tell he's frustrated. He said the coach might have thought, him not playing was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But he said he's healthy. It seems to me, based on this course of action, they got a shorter and shorter leash, shorter and shorter fuse when they're going to deal with Ja.
I don't think he's worried about that. He's ready to get up out of there.
Welcome back to NBA Cinema. So, man, we got to talk about Ja Morant a little bit more on today as more things is coming out about him potentially being traded. His time being up for Memphis is debatable, whether he's still as athletic as he used to be. Is he the same player that he used to be? But, we seen the blow up that happened. Shams is going to explain how this all culminated to what we saw in the locker room the other night. And Draymond mentions even seeing it out there on the floor. Let's take a look at those clips.
Senior NBA insider Shams Charania on the program now. Shams, good morning. What happened that led to this suspension?
Gary, there's been tension in the last several days around Ja Morant and his feelings toward first-year head coach Tuomas Isolo's rotation patterns, his plays. But it really culminated after and during the loss to Lakers on Friday night in the post-game locker room. Morant and Isolo had an exchange where Isolo called out Morant's leadership and effort in front of the whole team. And as teammates and staffers all looked on, Morant responded in what the team deemed an inappropriate and dismissive way, according to sources. And that's when the Grizzlies, their team officials, huddled up and they levied a one-game suspension on Ja Morant.
When I saw his comments, I found those interesting, but all they did was confirm to me what I was watching. When we got on that plane, I was telling Steph, like, man, Ja ain't in it at all. Like, it looked like something happened. Like, Ja, it ain't Ja. Like, he was giving the ball to Cam Spencer and kind of going to stand in the corner. So you could tell. And Steph was like, quiet protest going on, huh? And I was like, that's what it looked like. And then obviously after the game, we saw the comments. I was like, yep. And rightfully so, there was something going on. And so when you see this leaves you in a space of, is this the beginning of the end? And it takes you back to Taylor Jenkins getting fired and them hiring bumping the assistant coach up. When you looked at their team, Jaren, Ja, and those guys, I think they rocked with Taylor Jenkins. I truly in my heart believe that they rocked with Taylor Jenkins. So if that's the case and you just up and fire him, you're almost signaling to Ja and possibly Jaren that you really don't give a damn what they think about who's coaching them. And so when I look at this suspension, I say, okay, they didn't hire an assistant coach who I'm almost certain that Ja didn't really sign off on. But they're showing you they don't care what you think. And usually when they show stars that they don't care what you think, the next move is usually you.
Listen, so before we move on to Boogie Cousins and Chandler Parsons' comments on Ja Morant, I want to just put it out there that the Hoop Collective said that Ja Morant would not be expected to have a robust trade market if the Grizzlies tried to deal him. And sometimes you think, is this just a narrative? But also you can look at some of the things that Ja Morant has gone through and be like, is a team looking at him now as someone who can lead their franchise, or are they looking at him as baggage? Because you don't go get a player like Ja Morant, to just come in and be a starter. His game is kind of predicated upon him being the guy for the team, having the ball in his hands, decision-making. Because if you look at it, he's not particularly a great shooter from the outside. So ideally, you would want a roster built around him to accentuate his strengths and, pretty much hide his weaknesses. That's why you had a two-guard like Bane, around him, somebody who could shoot the lights out. But I'll continue, but let's look at what Boogie had to say. Let's peep.
Now we come into this game and we're talking about lack of effort and all these other things. It was a situation where, it was frustration in the game and it should have been left in that moment. It shouldn't have carried over. So I look at both sides. I look at Ja and I look at the coaching staff. Because like I said, the previous game, it was a 30-point game and everything was all good. And he was the franchise guy and the leader of the team and doing everything right. So one game later, we're now shifting the narrative again, and that's just not how this works. It's now becoming the blame game. This was a shitty season from the beginning. It's not much talent on the roster, and you guys weren't winning this season. So let's not start making this about Ja Morant. Yes, he's had his mistakes. Yes, he's done wrong, but he's been a professional ever since. He's doing things. He's been trying to lead to the best of his ability. And frustration is a part of sports. Let's stop acting like it's not. If you disagree, it's because you're a nerd and you never played the game. That's simple as that. Frustration is a part of sports. If you think we're not human beings, if you think we don't have emotions when we're playing on the field, on the court, or whatever respected sport we're playing, that is a part of the game, and this is the part that pisses me off. Stop dehumanizing these people. Stop acting like people aren't human beings. Stop acting like people don't have feelings, because it's a real thing, and you can't sit here and just turn it off like it's a switch in life. That's not how life works. But to talk about Ja as well, he does have to handle these situations differently. He does have to be more professional. And like Lou and Will said, you owe it to the fan base and you owe it to yourself to go out there and perform at a high level every night. That's on his part.
Like, all things aside, yes, he's human. Yes, we all go through things. Yes, we all frustrated. Control what you can control, though. You can control that effort on the floor.
Absolutely.
You can still go out there and bust the other team ass and be frustrated with your coaching staff. You can still go out there and do that. You can still perform at a high level and still tell your coaching staff, I'm still not pleased. You can still go out there and go get another 30 ball and say, hey, man, go talk to him why X, Y, and Z not working. You can still do those things. And so for that, for me, don't give anybody ammo to dehumanize you. Don't give anybody ammo to keep talking about you. You've already had your issues. So I'm not saying that he should walk on thin ice or eggshells, but he got to read the room. Again, this is a great summer for Ja Morant to come back in re-energized. I'm out there on that AAU circuit. It ain't nothing but Ja Morant shoes on these kids' feet. They love Ja.
And that's because he's the player that he is. That's because he's
the player that he is.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, no matter how good and talented Ja Morant is, all the things that he's had to go through and all the issues he's had, he's still auditioning for the 29 other teams to want to invest in him, to want to make a move to even get him, assuming he's unhappy. And when you start talking about lack of effort, you're messing with the game, as guys say and coaches say, that's not okay. And again, I agree with Lou there. That's an unprofessional approach to take to quit on your teammates and to not give your full effort. And that's what we saw in that game the other night. So as much issues as I've had with coaches and there's a lot of ups and downs throughout the season, it can't alter your effort, because that is just an extremely bad look around the league. It's a bad look for yourself. And listen, I know first and foremost how quickly these Memphis Grizzlies fans can turn on you, and Ja Morant has done a lot of stuff for this franchise. It's going to take a lot, and I think he's their guy regardless, but not playing as hard as you can and quitting, and then optics-wise saying these type of things, basically quitting on your team and to go ask the coach, that's not a leader. That's not a franchise player. You don't say things like that when you're in that position. So at the end of the day, if I'm 29 other teams, I have to look at all this other detrimental conduct that he's now doing every single season. Does that outweigh his talent?
Now, without playing all their content, I want to talk about something else Boogie Cousins said, where he talks about this coaching staff for the Grizzlies is very militant, pretty much like the overseas coaches. And Boogie was saying it don't work in modern basketball, don't work over here because we have talent, whereas a lot of the people overseas, doesn't. Although the style of coaching is good enough for Jokic, good enough for Giannis, good enough for Alperen Sengun, good enough for a lot of the top players across that water, when they're playing for their country. I want to say this. When Boogie said that, I thought about his own shortcomings, the way he was taken up for Ja, because he was a phenomenal, exceptional talent. Boogie should have been an anchor, and he was unstoppable for himself, but it didn't equate to wins. And some of that was on him. Some of that is on Sacramento as a franchise. But, Boogie, as far as some of the threes he would take, some of the bad shots he would take, he wasn't disciplined. And it reeks of uncoachability, and he's sympathizing and empathizing with Ja Morant in that right. Ja, one thing Chandler did say is, you're auditioning for the 29 other teams, and that's what I was thinking about. It's not always sweeter when you can go and play for another franchise because you have lost that thing that you have where they build around you. When they first draft you, they build around you. That's why you saw them go out and get players like, even Jake LaRavia, who's now playing for the Lakers and doing well. You had Desmond Bain. You had a lot of pieces around you, things in place, good veteran leadership in Steven Adams. They even said Steven Adams tried to talk to him, and he kind of brushed that off. And, you could be young and smelling yourself, but at some point you have to wake up and smell the roses, because this game will chew you up and spit you out quicker than, you can think you're on this pedestal right now, but it can go away really fast. It can go away really fast, especially someone whose game is predicated on athleticism and he gets hurt a lot like Ja Morant. Now, you think about Derrick Rose. Although he had his court things going on, we didn't want to act like, everything that was on his name was squeaky clean. But as far as him coming in, producing for the franchise, when he was with Chicago, that is, I'm just speaking about the early part of his career. They wanted to keep bringing D Rose back. He went to Minnesota. Thibs wanted to keep D Rose around because of loyalty to Derrick Rose. He felt like Derrick Rose and the seasons that he had, coaching D Rose was probably why he was getting the opportunities he was, and D Rose stayed ready, as far as a player. Ja, on the other hand, is ostracizing himself from the team. And just because somebody challenges you, that's what I hate about this era. That's why I say this era is soft. If a coach can't challenge you, what do you want the coach to do? If he calls you out in front of the guys, instead of taking that as, wait, you talk to your franchise player like that? You should take that as, okay, he's serious. He's serious. So let me turn it up a notch. Obviously, he has to play you because no team is paying a player that much not to play. So he's talking to try to motivate you. That's not nothing he can go through because people above his head, the owner's going to come to him like, hey, we paying this dude $200-something million. You done missed out on money. I mean, think about this. Think about everything Ja's done because he makes you bring these things back up. That red light on the Indiana Pacers team bus, like you flashing a gun at them, even though it probably was just a light, but, don't even do that like that, right? The fight at the Foot Locker, whatever, about to get into a fight with a young man, coming up to a high school game, getting into it with some kids or some young man that was talking junk to your sister. At what point, do you say they kind of stuck with me through this? And this is going to be the last organization that sticks with you through this. I want to point this out as far as the guys you might have around you, because he said him and his guys is good. And that week interview with Jalen Rose where he kind of didn't want to do, he wanted to kind of portray no snitch and say the gun isn't mine. I said, oh, I see what he's doing. He's coming out doing an interview, but I'm reading between the lines. He's showing that I'm still no snitching. Get somebody like Jalen Rose to do the interview. I'm comfortable with him. He's going to try to stick to the street code to a certain extent too. So I can kind of breeze through that and answer the questions the way I want it answered and have them framed the way I want it framed. Well, I'm gonna put this out there, John. This is the last organization that's going to hide things. Those things didn't come out, until that second gun incident came out. But they were hiding a lot of things that was going on in Memphis. Now, it's just going to be out there because they have a narrative on you. Corporate dollars was spent marketing behind you, and they couldn't even release the shoe. The day your shoe was supposed to come out, that commercial was supposed to come out, that gun thing comes out. So you've kind of messed up. You should be trying to rebrand. Now you're showing you're not the leader of a team. So you know what? You might have to learn the hard way, man. You might have to learn the hard way that the league will chew you up and spit you out, man. I mean, that's just probably how you're gonna have to learn. I'm a little disappointed because I thought, he was pretty quiet this offseason and was coming in focused. I thought you as a player, you just spoke about being left out of those top PG conversations. You think about how the league was supposed to be yours, then Shea just came up out that West, and now Shea is him. You should be like, man, that's where I should be. That's who I like. I should be seen like that, except for I should be seen as a face of the league type player with that. Shea isn't seen as like the face of the league, even though he could be the best player in the league right now. You could argue that, but he's not seen as a face of the league. He don't have that aerial assault that you have and that flash that you once had. And you're injured a lot. I think Ja took for granted how often they are keeping him as the franchise guy. A few injuries, man, teams start to look elsewhere, but they've stuck with you. You had your run-ins. Taylor Jenkins and them went in that hotel room, tried to sit you down, said you had some things to say back to them. So now they done moved on. They're going to move on from you. Well, now where do you get traded? Where do you get traded? Because they said the market isn't as robust as you think it is. You're not as a desired of a commodity as you would have been 2 or 3 years ago. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time. Peace.